Hello, welcome to 52 Weeks. I am speaking to Allison Caccoma today, and I'm very excited. She's coming to us, there she is. She's coming to us from, go live with Allison Caccoma, from San Francisco, one of my favorite cities in America. And she is, hello everybody. Oh, and there she is. Hello.
Hey, how are
Happy,
you?
Happy New Year. Look
Thank
at
you.
those awesome lamps behind you.
You like that? That was on purpose.
They're gorgeous.
Wasn't, but thank you. Thank you. I'm sitting in my
Hey,
shop now.
in your shop.
Yes.
Okay, well, I have tons of questions about that, but first, I always like to ask everybody because it's like my favorite part of the movie when Spider-Man is becoming Spider-Man or when Iron Man's in the cave building the suit. Like for me, it's all the origin stories. So,
Yeah.
how did you start? I mean, you used to be on Wall Street? Like, I love those crazy stories.
Oh, I'm one of those. Yeah. So I worked on Wall Street for 12 years. And, I was there back in kind of the heyday when it was all the wild, fun stuff. And
What
so
does that mean?
well,
Cocaine for breakfast?
it was a different world back then in the 80s and 90s. And, it was fun. And I went through a lot of really exciting things with some wild stories to
Yeah.
tell about my days there. But I was never passionate about it. It was, I kind of went to work every day and went home.
What field? What particular business were
I
you in?
was in sales, and I sold U.S. Treasury securities to institutions. So I
Like, sorry.
I I did, and it's crazy. I did about $2 billion worth of trades every day. And it was like, okay, kind of just routine. I could have been flipping hamburgers, quite honestly. It was
Yeah.
just it's a commodity. And that's all good. And, with some fascinating times and experiences that I saw globally, because we were the
Mhm.
US
Sure.
market. So, for instance, the first Gulf War, when that happened in
Yeah.
91, we had all gotten home from work and we got the phone call, get back here, markets are trading. So, pretty
Yeah.
exciting stuff. But as the years went on, I just realized this isn't for me. This isn't what I want to spend the rest of my life doing. And there was this lack of passion. And I think it took that to figure out that I wanted to be more creative. And so I'd gotten a postcard in the mail from the New York School of Interior Design.
Which you know how I feel about. I'm
Me too.
on the
And
board.
this one little postcard changed my life. It was the historical styles class.
Yeah.
And I lived in the neighborhood, and I figured out it's Monday nights for 2 hours. It'll be a distraction. And the moment I stepped in that front door, my life changed forever. So I
Wow.
started taking classes at night while I was still on Wall Street. And 4 years later, the firm I was working for on Wall Street was shutting down because of the Japanese banking crisis.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, okay, good. I can get laid off. So it was perfect. And I went to school full time, and that's when I got my job with Bunny as an
And you
intern.
were probably on gardening leave. I
Yeah,
mean, you couldn't have gone back to Wall Street anyway.
no, I was done. I mean, no
Yeah.
matter what, I was halfway through my associate's degree at New York School of Interior Design, and I figured that's it. I'm done. It's time to really make the move and the career change.
And at the New York School of Interior Design, some of our most like devoted students and many success stories are
Yeah.
because people have like grown to the age where they're like, no, I really know myself. I
Yeah.
need to do this.
I was going to school at night. And, in the evening program, there were accountants. There was a doctor in one of my
Yeah.
classes. There was, me, Wall Street. So it was a lawyer, I remember, mostly kind of professionals. I was in my 30s. And
And how'd you end up with Bunny?
luck.
Did you just
Pure
call
luck.
and say, do you need,
I
what was the process?
I sent my resume to 5 designers. I didn't even know what the D&D building was. I mean, I was going from really one world to another, and
Yeah.
I fell into it. And I remember sending my resume to 5 big designers. And little did I know, and I got a call, and they were looking for an intern, and I went in and met Jamie Johnson, who at the time was Bunny's business manager.
Uh-huh.
And she just hired me on the spot. You know, I think I was 36.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little bit older at that point. And oh my
and
God.
there's some ageism in design too.
But
like, well, when any career when you're starting, they're, you know,
right.
harder and if you're older.
I was in charge of the fabric library and shopping. And I remember, you know, I was like going from a vice president on Wall Street on a trading floor to folding fabrics and color coordinating them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? But within a week,
you're like, what did I do? Oh, but that is so pretty.
I need this. But I remember Bunny coming to my desk and I just remember it so vividly. And she came over and she probably sensed I was a little bit older and I was really starting from the, you know, ground zero in the design world. And she said, do you want to be a decorator? I said, yes. And she said, well, you're going to have to learn this business from the bottom up and I'll teach you. And that is exactly what happened.
Wow.
Over the course of 7 years.
I don't think the ICAA, which is another huge relationship another institution with which you have a relationship.
Yeah.
We do a talk in the fall, a Mark Hampton talk. And it's about mentorship. And I do think it's not always easy to find a place where you have a Bunny or you have, for me, a Mark, those people who know it so well and are so diligent about teaching it.
Exactly. And Bunny taught me, and she teaches everyone who works for her. And even when I worked for her, as the years went on, I would mentor the interns, and some of them still have the list that I wrote them from the showrooms at the D&D build on the yellow legal pad.
Yeah.
But, you know, I love to teach. I love to mentor. And with my staff right now, I take that very, very seriously. And it's really important to me to do that. And I'm sure for you as well, because you had that mentor. I had that mentor. You know, I think a lot of young people in design aren't, you know, lucky enough to have that. So to pay it forward for me is really, really important.
How long were you with Bunny before you moved on?
I was with Bunny for 7 years.
Oh, so I very biblical. I've always been of the mind that it takes 7 years before you can go out on your own. I don't know where I got that idea in my head or why it's associated with the number 7, but
then I worked for Jeffrey Billhuber for 1 year. And then at 1 year,
he's a block away from me, his office.
I know. I've been to your apartment a couple parties.
I know you have.
I know exactly where that corner is. But yeah, so I worked for Jeffrey for 1 year, and you know, I'm really so lucky because Bunny and Jeffrey are two totally different, totally brilliant designers.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I took so much of what I learned from Bunny and so much of what I learned from Jeffrey, and was able to meld that into how I run my small business now. You know, so very lucky to have that experience.
Yeah. So your husband got a job on the West Coast, and that's how you ended up moving, is it not?
Well, he was always here. He was over here, and we met, and I was in New York, and he was living in San Francisco. So one of us had to move, and it was me.
So, but that's just thinking about it. That's great to give you the sense that you've graduated.
Right.
You know, you got to be with Bunny, you got to do with Jeffrey. Like, that's many, many years. That's a lot of information. If you had been filled with trepidation or shy about it or whatever,
right,
having to move from city to city must have been a wonderful forced launch.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm really, again, just lucky that it was that city to this city.
Yeah.
Even though California is so different.
I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, what?
It's so different, you know, than the East Coast. And I lived in New York City for 25 years. Yeah. So
where are you from originally?
I'm from Dutchess County.
Oh, nice. My mother grew up in Dutchess County.
Oh, she did?
Uh-huh.
Where?
In Doylestown.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yep. I grew up in Hyde Park. So that's always home for me.
Yeah.
My relatives are still there. But anyway, yes, you sort of moving on. I thought it was going to be a little bit easier than it was. I've been in San Francisco for 10 years now. And the real turning point for me was 3 years ago when I opened the shop.
Yeah,
Because
that's a bold move.
yeah, that happened by
And you had no experience with having a
zero.
shop.
Zero.
So tell me everything.
So Sacramento Street is this really charming street in Presidio Heights that has a lot, just kind of morphed into interior design, a lot of shops. There's a Serena and Lily shop down the street, Hudson Grace, if you're familiar with Monel and Gary, Sue Fisher King. If you come to San Francisco, everybody knows Sue for 30 years. So anyway, there's this charming space that was for sale, and it was a retail condo, and my husband and I were just the third ones in line and happened to get it. And it was intended to be my design studio, but it zoned retail. So I was like, okay, I have to figure this out quickly. And honestly, I couldn't have done it without Jonathan Gargiulo at John Rosselli.
Yeah.
So I told them, that I have, now I have a shop. I'm like, what do I do with that? It was kind of this space, and I had to figure it out. I did it totally backwards.
And is that a Christian Brezhnev behind you?
A brand new one.
Very
Got
cool.
that. So, and Bunny Williams' home, I had told them, and the girls there were like, we have furniture in a warehouse in LA. Here's a list. Tell us what you want. Bring it up to your shop. It's sitting there doing nothing. So then John Rosselli said to me, well, if you're going to have Bunny Williams, then you have to have John Rosselli. Okay.
Good for him.
And then Christopher Spitzmiller got wind of it, and he called me. He said, I hear you're opening a shop. I'm like, apparently.
But that also, everybody hears it's all about relationships, but you realize a lot of it is about relationships.
It's all about relationships. And, one thing led to another, and all of a sudden Christian Brezhnev is here. And, Jonathan really, really helped me with the showroom and retail store model, because that's exactly what they had at 61st Street, which but it was the same thing. It was kind of a cross between a showroom and a antique shop.
Right.
And that's very much what I have here. So I carry Bunny Williams' home, John Rosselli, and Spitzmiller, and everything else is vintage and antique that, frankly, I buy a lot in New York, Connecticut. Every time I come back to New York, I spend a day in State.
Yeah. So what has COVID done to that business? Has it helped it? I hate to take anything positive away from COVID when it's so terrible.
Right now in San Francisco, we are technically under a state mandated stay home order.
But how are you doing at work?
What?
Why the hell are you in your office?
Because retail's open.
Yeah.
Retail is the only thing open at 10% capacity. So, and this has been going on since the beginning of December. In a way, everything else is closed. Our restaurants, indoor and outdoor dining is closed. Gyms are closed. Hair salon. Yeah. So shopping is the only thing. Museums are closed. Shopping is the only thing people can do. So we have had some really nice foot traffic, and I think it's because it's literally, if you want to get out of your house and do something other than, go for a walk or do something outdoors, shopping is the only thing you can do. So
what about your internet orders?
Well, it's funny. Okay. This is me doing things backwards. When I opened this shop, I said to myself, I don't want e-commerce. This shop is all about coming in here, sitting down, having a cup of tea or a glass of wine on my sofa with me. And I want you to experience a home. So I set it up to be a home and not a store. I don't have shelves full of, multiple, and I styled it as if you were styling a project of yours.
Yeah.
And I continue to do that, but I didn't want e-commerce. I didn't have the bandwidth. I don't know what I'm doing, whatever. But when COVID happened, I had to pivot, our favorite word.
Our favorite new word. Yeah.
That I'm kind of tired of. And I went to my website designers and we immediately did the online shopping.
Yeah.
So we just launched it a month or two ago and it's been doing fine. We surprisingly are selling things from the website. It's not something I've really marketed and I need to work on that.
Yeah.
Most of what I have is one of a kind, one-off pieces because it's vintage. So we're working on building that right now.
Yeah.
So, but the shop,
for you.
Yeah, it's, what, it's very East Coast and it's really unique in California because of that.
So yeah, that is some questions that we're getting was, are you bringing an East Coast look to the West Coast or what, is there a difference in your style with you there?
Yes. Well, my style has not changed at all. My style is from the school you and I come from and the classical school, timeless. Again, Bunny Williams, Mark Hampton, Alexa Hampton, ICAA. So my style hasn't changed at all. But what I've done with the shop is I've definitely brought it here. And, the one thing I love about the shop is people come in and they love to talk. And it's so nice to meet people kind of in a different way. A decorating client, that's a completely different relationship. And there are a lot of East Coast transplants here. They might be from DC or Boston or Florida, but it's
and I think publishing has changed what we consider regional anyway, because we all are seeing many of the same images and we don't know where they are. We just know if we like them or we don't. Right.
Exactly. So it definitely stands out here as being different. So it's been successful because of that.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I didn't really hesitate about opening a shop was because when I moved here, I'm like, where do I buy a hurricane?
Yeah. I mean, the most important thing. I know I see your amber glass and you see my,
I saw that.
My purple. And I have the blue of what you have in my front hall.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I know. Love it. I love it. I have a green one here too. Christian's been dabbling with new colors and it's been a lot of fun. I love what he does. I know. So, but anyway, when I was sort of like, okay, now you're opening a store, Allison, I didn't mind it because I wanted to bring here what I couldn't find.
Yeah. I think that's usually the most successful model is to address an actual need.
Exactly.
If you try to hypothesize, you could get it totally wrong.
Right. And the last thing I wanted to be was like everybody else.
Mm-hmm. So is there more stress with having a shop or less because you have another revenue stream?
Just that, there is another revenue stream and it's nice to have that. I think, the most challenging thing for me has been staffing the shop.
Uh-huh.
And so that is a little bit of a stress, finding that right person that can help me build this business.
And who loves it,
who doesn't, who's here to be in a store or showroom, not to be a designer moving to step on, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
So, but I think I have found someone, so stay tuned. I'm pretty excited.
Okay, that is exciting.
But
it takes a while.
What's that?
Go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say it's challenging juggling both businesses, but this is kind of a no-brainer. It just works and it operates.
I'm knocking on wood for you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, me too. And it is an additional revenue stream. So that has definitely come in and it's my best marketing tool.
Yeah.
So I would say, in the past 3 years, I would say almost all of my projects have come from this shop in one way. Pretty much everything.
Wow. Yeah. That's huge. That makes such an argument for that.
I know. And I've actually advised other designers who have been thinking about doing the same thing, and that's exactly what I tell them. I said, there's no other better marketing tool than having this dollhouse that you can play with and you can, this is me. This is all, it's great. It's like having a little show house room all the time.
Yeah. What were the 7 years like prior to opening decoration?
I was spending a lot of time going back and forth to the East Coast. You know, I had a project in Pittsburgh. I had projects in Florida.
And it's word of mouth, or what is
yeah,
your, prior to the store, it was just
yeah.
normal?
And I think, you know, I was so established in New York when I moved here
Yeah.
that, you know, that kind of stayed. So I was traveling back, honestly, up until COVID last year, I was back in New York every 6 weeks, which I love. That keeps me connected to everything. The DD building, you know, I will always plan a trip around a party.
Yeah.
At an event. Oh, the last time I saw you was at the, what was it, March 5th last year, the New York School of Design Gala.
Yes, which I almost, like, I had to call Jim Druckmann and Margaret Russell and all these people because my husband had been exposed on a plane, and I didn't find out till later, and to like 51 people confirmed COVID cases. So I of course, everyone at that dinner for the New York School of Interior Design was like, "Oh no, we're not kissing," and I was like, "Oh well, I am." Mwah.
That was when the elbow bump was just starting. We're like, forget that, you know.
Yeah.
I know. I think I hugged you. I mean,
I'm sure I like mwah, all over your face.
I know. I know. So
Listening to you talk about NYSID, and then Bunny and Jeffrey, and then the people that called you when you opened your shop, like, this is clearly a business that is hugely dependent upon community.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. For
and
sure.
I think a lot of people think decorators and designers are lone wolves, but we're not at all.
Opposite. Yeah.
We need these connections.
Right. When I moved to San Francisco, it was funny. My husband, who had no idea about our industry, I moved here because we got engaged. So I'm like meeting designers. I'm going to events. I'm going out to dinner with designers, and, you know, networking within our community. And I'll never forget. He said to me, he goes, "Wait a minute, aren't these people all your competitors? Why are you having dinner with them?" And I said, "Our business doesn't work like that."
It's not like that.
You know, he's at UBS. He's not going to go out to dinner with his competitor or whatever you want to call it from Morgan Stanley. It just, our business is very different. And I think really one of the most amazing things about it is we support each other so much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we all have a passion. You know, we're not doing this like other people would do other careers. You know, we're so passionate about it, and we share that passion, and we do it through organizations like the Institute of Classical Architecture, and, you know, being on the advisory board or the board of the ICAA, and I'm sorry, the New York School of Interior Design, and paying it forward, and, you know, teaching the next generation that this is all about community.
And it's not all paying it forward. Like having somebody like Chris Miller call up and be like, "I want my lamps in your shop." Right. You know, I think there are ways that, you know, we ask each other questions when we have a business problem that we don't know the answer to. And we do find ways to support each other that are very tangible. Right. You know, it's not just, you know, we really all are dragging each other up all the time.
Right. And, you know, I'm one of those designers who doesn't mind sharing my sources and my workrooms, because I want them to do well. I want them to succeed and survive in this world that we live in. And, you know, if I can support Chris and sell as many lamps as possible, that keeps him in business.
Totally. And what would we do without his lamp? So,
yeah.
Tell me about your style. I know, most annoying question on earth. Go for it.
Well, I think I answered what were the 3 words I answered? Timeless.
What?
What was the 3rd one? Fresh, timeless, fresh. I don't remember. Oh, inviting.
Which are antithetical, timeless and fresh.
Well, you know,
and inviting.
It's funny, you know, you look, I think the timeless part of it stems from traditional, which is a word that you know, everybody's afraid of. Obviously, it's coming back, but you know, and that's what traditional really is. It's based on timelessness. And if you go back to architecture, for instance, you know, that still applies today, even with modern architecture. You know, you need to know the rules before you can break them. So it might not be obvious to the untrained eye, but to the architect, you know, who's designing it, they see it. So, you know, timeless meaning, and you know, look at
not
Albert.
dateable,
Exactly.
not dead on arrival, as my
You
father
don't
would say
know
about certain rooms.
exactly. You don't know who decorated it or what decade it was decorated.
Mm-hmm. But it looks right.
It looks right. And if I, you know, have a leak and I need to replace the wallpaper, just put the same paper back up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's the biggest compliment, is when people love it so much they don't want to change it. So, and when I say fresh, I love fresh color. So I think,
have you charted the difference in these past 5 years to the 5 before in terms of color?
I don't think so, because I think I've always gravitated to this, as it relates to me. I've always,
well, at work. I mean, if you're a colorful person,
yeah.
But your clients, are they asking you to bring the color palette, bring the color wheel, or did you have a stretch where it was beige and taupe?
I don't think I have had many clients that have wanted beige and taupe. I do have one project right now, which is really, she's a young gal. She's adorable beyond words. And, you know, I'm sure you've had something. I don't like purple, you know, kind of, yeah, I don't like purple. We have purple in the dining room, in the media room, in the kitchen. So, you know, it's kind of, I think, bringing people in and, you know, teaching them that it can work, you know, and opening their vision and their own taste. So that's part of it. But I don't think I've ever had anybody just say beige and taupe.
Well, I don't think
I can't do that.
it, but I definitely felt like there was in the zeitgeist a phase of that.
Yeah. Oh,
and that the past, you know, like obviously it started. Well, I mean, it was reinforced after 2008 because all of those specialty wallpapers and things that were not as bulk sellable got discontinued.
Right.
But then they came back. They came back in full force, and I think are in full force.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that as it related to 2008 and 9. It's a very
But all the esoteric stuff had to be dropped immediately because they weren't paying for themselves.
Right. But, you know, going through the regional magazines here in California, it is pretty much beige and white, very serene, neutral color. You know, Restoration Hardware's headquarters are 15 miles away. I don't know if that had something to do with it, but it may have. But, you know, a lot of the shops on the street definitely have that feel and that vibe. And, again, I think that's what's so different about this shop is it's loaded with color. You know, I have a pink Venetian plaster ceiling.
Amazing. Can we see it?
Can you see it? Let's see.
Just a little.
Right. Well, hold on
Who
a second.
doesn't want to see pink Venetian plaster?
Oh, there. Hold on.
Redwood.
Oh, yeah. There's my pencil cup you're propped up on.
And look at that beautiful view outside, too.
Oh, yeah. You want to see
You
my
have
shop?
the best of it all. Yeah,
Here,
I'd love to see your shop.
I'll give you a quick little tour. So it's tiny, and this is very zoomed in. So here are 3 Christian Brezhnevs, fabulous Bunny Williams home table. 6 of these, Alexa. Do you need these?
They're pretty amazing.
There's 6. There are 6. You know, so this is looking out the window. We have this pretty bay window. All right.
Love your ferns.
Look at him. Do you need a pelican for Florida? Beautiful. Yeah, the pedestals are John Rosselli. These are the other ones in front are antique. So I have a local artist who does these fabulous pieces. More of my
that's so cool.
Isn't he great?
Yeah.
I love him. So yeah, that's from Artifacts, some of my Spitzmiller lamps, some of my vintage pieces.
Beautiful.
So you kind of get and there's the pink ceiling.
Love it.
It's really beautiful. Really.
And
beautiful.
are your office is right there. Do you have back offices or?
My design studio is down the street.
Okay,
So
perfect.
it's 2 blocks away. So my designers work down there, and when I have client meetings, it's all down there. I tried to do it here because I didn't realize I didn't know what I was doing, and it didn't work. It was just too confusing.
Yeah.
So now
So where do you spend most of your day? There?
I spend most of my day with my at the other office. Yeah, I have client meetings and my projects, and
Is it as pretty?
not quite, but close.
Okay. Because
This
I feel like
is a 100-year-old.
beautiful surroundings are
Yeah,
important.
really, really pretty. The other one's more of an office. So, but I'm definitely, much more involved on the interior design projects.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I could
Oh, yeah.
spend here. I love it here. It's so pretty.
So pretty. Hey, Scott Meacham Wood. Allison spells her name with 2 L's. Everybody needs to know this. It's Allison with 2 L's. I almost posted it with 1 L, and I stopped myself. So
Scott is adorable. Scott moved to New York.
here,
Yeah,
we got him now.
I miss him.
What are you most looking forward to the minute we're free to roam the earth?
Shopping.
Yeah. How much? I mean, I've always been very shy about shopping and bringing stuff back. Obviously, I don't have a shop, but in terms of it making me need to sell this stuff to clients, and it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
If they think I'm trying to get rid of it, but obviously you wouldn't buy it if you didn't think it was amazing.
Exactly. And that was something I learned working for Bunny. I mean, Bunny, she obviously had triage at the time. But Bunny and John would travel the globe. And oh my gosh, when I first started with her, that was my job, was to get everything they bought to New York.
Oh, what a great thing to be taught to do right out the gate.
I know. She would come back. They would come back from wherever they were, and she'd have a stack of receipts and paperwork, in French, whatever, from the flea market. And she goes, here, you got, get this here. And so that was sort of
that's amazing.
I know. Oh my God. And I got to see all these beautiful things. And, she would buy things that she loved that she wanted to use for her projects. And we kept binders of the inventory, categorized, if we need side tables, you go to the side table. If you need lamps, if you need textiles, we kept all of the textiles in the office. And then, so when we had meetings with Bunny, we would pull her own inventory for what was needed on the project.
Mm-hmm.
And, Bunny's different selling things than I am, but I will say having the shop has kind of legitimized what I buy as my clients look at it.
Yes, it's a conduit that you're not. They can't think that you're needing them to buy it.
Right.
It's going to the shop. If they want to get the scoop, and buy it first, then they can.
Exactly. So it's different than having a warehouse full of things that you're potentially saving for projects. I think that was a little, and of course I did that too, because we can't help ourselves.
Yeah.
And
you knew how to do it. That
was a harder sell. That was harder. Now it's like, oh, I have this at the shop, or I have this in inventory for the shop, and it's much it's just legitimized.
It makes it easier.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of your job?
Oh my gosh, that is a hard question. Well, actually, no, it's not. Because now that I have the shop, I look at things differently. I think I'm shopping more. I'm doing a lot on auctions, by the way, since COVID started, and since I can't go to New York or Atlanta or anywhere else to shop.
I mean, auctions are great. That's where people get things.
Yeah.
Shopkeepers.
I think that has become a favorite part of my job, is really sourcing and having a different perspective.
That is refreshing. I don't think I've heard anybody say that ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God, I could sit on these auction sites all night long. I mean, I have gotten some amazing things this past year. And in fact, I just did a little interview for, I think it was Veranda. It was in last week. And, it was about, what is your advice in buying for auctions? And the one thing I've learned is whatever you buy, you assume needs restoration.
Yeah. Oh, good point.
I mean, it's never going to come the way you want it. If good luck.
I had a client say to me who bought an antique. They were like, the leg came off, and it's obvious that they were trying to hide the fact that it was broken. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, because it's an antique, because it's been restored. Of course, they put the foot back on.
I know. I actually have someone in New York who's been helping me that, I've been using forever and ever. So I basically, whatever I buy at auction, if it's on the East Coast anyway, it goes to him.
Genius.
And polishes it and makes it beautiful. And then I ship it here. And, it's just been so successful and so fun. We're all suffering from no more antique shops,
Totally.
and
Somebody wants to know which of the sites are your favorite.
oh,
give them some if you don't mind.
It's Bid Square, Live Auctioneers, and what's the other one? Live Auctioneers, Bid Square. I can't remember. I'll
Everything But the House.
No, I don't know that one. Then there's Stair and Doyle, of course, yeah. But what these auction sites? It's the Bid Square, the Live Auctioneer, and the one I can't remember. They kind of are conglomerates of all the smaller auction houses in the country. So you pay a little bit more. I want to say extra 3%. Honestly, if you're buying these things at great prices, which you often can.
Why the extra 3% according to them?
Because you're going through their platform.
Okay.
Right.
But
so,
I mean, all auction houses have
the Stair auction. What's that?
All auctions have their markup. Is this on top of those, or this is just theirs?
Yeah. So the Stair auction will be on Bid Square, and they, what's different is bidding. You can bid live or absentee bids and all that. So, it takes a little fooling around with it and figuring it out. And I sort of have my routine now. And then, then you find different auction houses that you follow, and you can put, search in, Wedgwood or whatever, want to search. And then they
Caesar head.
Exactly.
Of course.
Pretty much. So, so that's been, really, really great. And
what does your house look like?
I look at it differently because I'm always shopping, and that's what's fun for me. In fact, I think that was my vice. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm not selling that.
Yeah. Do you give yourself, like, how do you resist the urge to overbid or to spend too much money while you're on auction?
I set old-fashioned goals. I just, for everything I'm bidding on, I give myself a maximum. And I try to be disciplined about that. And I know that my maximum is like a bid or two past that because I can't help myself.
Yeah,
but
that is the threat.
It is. It's dangerous. My consolation to myself is just make sure you don't lose money. If you don't make money.
Yes, that is the goal.
But there's no profit. Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not the goal. But if that happens, it's all right. Just don't lose money. So.
Yeah, that's very good to remind yourself.
Do you find
I will for myself, and I will like clients will, and I'll advise them ahead of time, but I don't buy it, like I let them deal with the getting it,
right,
setting it up with the auction house.
Right.
I was going to ask you what your house looks like. So I know obviously you're a classicist. You are the head of the Northern California chapter of the ICAA.
Yes. So my house is just down the street, and I'm really so in love with where we live. It is a 100-year-old apartment building, very much like a, New York City pre-war building.
Yeah.
And one of the photos on your blog, I guess, is my dining room. It's the one with the arched windows. So
yeah. And I was thinking I should show this to a client who, I've drawn it a million times how to do a curtain over an arch for them, but I think they need a picture like yours.
Yeah, that's my dining room. So we've got a spectacular, to a fault, 100-year-old building that has original windows. So that beautiful arched window, I have 2 of those in the dining room and 1 in the master bedroom. Yep, that's it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So you can see the architecture, and
Yeah.
it's untouched, again, to a fault, but it's spectacular plaster work, all the details, all the moldings. Every room in the apartment, it's a 7-room apartment, has applied molding on the walls. When I have this beautiful fixture in my living room that is vintage, and when the electrician went to hang it, the old gas pipe was still there. Obviously, it was cut off, but
Yeah.
it took them 2 days to hang this fixture. So it's very classical, but you can see by that photo that I love color.
Yeah.
And
But
that,
it's, again, let me show this picture. It's great color, but it's also I think it's it's neither feminine nor masculine. It
right,
speaks to both. Like,
right.
it's got a great flexibility.
Right. And that room has southeast exposure, and the sun just pours in, and it was too bright. And I kind of took the approach where I'm going to use dark color on the walls because I have to bring it in, and it's just magical. It's really, really pretty.
I'm sure that's counterintuitive to people
Yeah.
listening to you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this room is so bright, I need to tamp it down with some
Yeah.
dark color or some saturation. Do you eat there other than dinner?
No, it was my office for months. In fact, I have.
But that's also a good lesson. Like, if your dining room is where you eat dinner, it should
Yeah.
be decorated for
Yeah.
dinner time.
Right, right. But it's such it's kind of an open, for a 100-year-old building, it's a very open floor plan. So the living room has a big, huge entry into that. So it's in your vision all day, every day. And we eat dinner in there. No, we don't eat any other meals in there, which is terrible. Um, thanks for offering that. Maybe I'll serve lunch this weekend.
Mix it up.
I know, but I use the room. I work in there. I have a big dining room table that I'll open up drawings. We're at home more now. But
I'm all for the dining room as office.
Fun fact about it. We think that was originally the parlor of these apartments because there's a fireplace in there and there's no ceiling fixture. The room next to it, which is our living room, has the ceiling fixture, which in theory would have been over a dining table.
Yeah.
The kitchen. So there's no lighting in that room, zero. There are no recessed lights. And so I have 4 floor lamps in the corners that are it's the only lighting in that room. And at night, it's really pretty because the light's not above you, it's behind you. Mm-hmm. And then you put your hurricanes and your candles and, candles on the mantle. So it becomes a really different dining experience. And, we're so used to saying, okay, dining room has a chandelier, but it's really pretty with that.
I mean, I can't put a chandelier in my dining room because the ceiling is cement. But I'm with you when I do chandeliers in dining rooms all the time. But I dim them to almost nothing. And the important light is all the rest of it.
Exactly.
So I have a question that I should probably add to the questionnaire. It's that major a question for me. So chandeliers in living rooms?
It depends on your ceiling height.
But right? I feel like you're annoyed with the question. Why? What do you think? No, generally.
Oh, generally? No, I don't do chandeliers in living rooms.
Either.
No, a beautiful.
I have.
And I haven't.
When necessary. But I'm really leave me alone with the chandelier in the living room.
Yeah.
Because I don't like a central furniture plan anyway. I like it all diffuse. And...
Exactly. That's a hard thing to sell. Do you find that when you show a client, especially with a really large living room where you have multiple seating areas, do you find that's hard for people to understand? I do.
No, I don't. I think
good.
I think you just have to talk it up as the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
Everybody if they're lucky enough to have such a big living room.
Right.
How could you not want that?
I know.
A place where you could be cozy and talk to one other person or, or my parents, both of their living rooms in the city and in the country, they have the greatest living rooms because they've got tons of different seating areas.
Exactly.
That's the grail.
Exactly. I know. I know. Well, you're a good salesperson. People don't realize that what we do is sales.
Well, I'm not a good salesperson in that regard, but in terms of like
You
pointing
can
out
be.
the logic, um, no, I think when I look at what things cost, I'm always surprised.
Oh, totally. Totally. And why does that never go away? Right?
I don't know. Somebody's asking, how do we convince someone to get rid of a ceiling fan?
Ooh.
Well, if it's a ceiling fan with a light, you take a baseball bat.
Exactly. Somebody, you, me, one of us, I've been saying this for 20 years. Somebody needs to design some beautiful ceiling fans with light illuminating from it, not like those ugly things. But
Oh, like an uplight.
I like ceiling fans. I love the functionality of them. I love being in a room. My parents live in Florida, and I'm always turning their ceiling fans on in the living room. I just like that little bit of gentle air circulation, and at night sleeping. But
But
nobody.
it's the ceiling height thing again.
It's a ceiling height thing, and they're ugly. I mean, they're just not attractive, especially if you want to light in them.
I mean, we've got one in our Southampton living room that is dark wood. The fan itself is dark
Right.
wood.
Classic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
But
kind of,
beyond that, I can't think of a.
I know. I know. That's a really hard one. That is challenging. Always a challenge.
That should go in the questionnaire. What's your favorite kind of client?
My favorite, I have two. The first one is the one who has such exquisite taste that it's so easy and they understand it and get it and have a little bit of adventure in them. I mean, that I just finished a project down the street here, and it was a dream project and the most beautiful house. And I think, it was very collaborative, and that was really fun. And the other perfect client is the one that just lets me go with it.
And do you have many of those?
No, but they come around. I have had a few, and they say, you're the expert. Whatever you say is good. I'm fine with it. So those are the best. Those are the best results too.
Yeah.
Do
you do show houses much?
I did the San Francisco show house. Oh my gosh, it was 2015. I did the Sotheby's show house. Remember that when they did that?
I do.
I did that in April, and in May of the same year, I did the San Francisco Decorators Showcase House, they call it here. So I've done those two. Those are the two kind of biggest ones I've done. The dream is always to do Kips Bay, but otherwise I don't do them much. And it's funny that you asked that, because in a way, the shop is the show house a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I was asking you on the heels of your saying that the other kind of perfect client is one who just lets you run with it.
Yeah.
I feel like show houses are like that.
Yeah.
Except that show house fails are usually the result of the absence of a client. Because it's that's the secret sauce, right? Having that push and pull or whatever it is, the soul.
Yeah, for sure. And I always tell my clients, and I'm pretty firm about this, that this is your house, not mine. You hired me to make your home beautiful, and we're going to figure out what you love too and do it together. And so I kind of push the collaborative part of it a little bit. I leave, I'm after a year or two, I'm done, and they live in it for however long.
Forever. Yeah.
Forever. And hopefully they're the ones that come and say, put the same wallpaper back up, So, it is a collaborative, process for sure, without a doubt. And I like that part of it. I like the push and pull. And I like when a client brings something to me and I say, well, I never would have thought of that. But I love it.
Yeah. And then you made the right choice in working together.
Exactly. Sure.
Have you noticed that your style has so what was your style when you were in banking or finance, whatever we call that?
It was very much what it is today. I just didn't
It
realize it
was.
was something. I didn't realize it was something. I didn't know anything about interior design. I grew up in, upstate New York. We didn't have designers there. I didn't grow up in that kind of environment.
Well, I mean, upstate New York is hardly like, in a grotto on a coastal island. I mean,
Right.
did your parents have nice things
Oh
or a
yeah.
nice way of putting things together?
Oh yeah. My parents, my father, you love this story. And this is one of my answers too. My dad is an engineer. He was an engineer for IBM for his whole career. And, and like whatever chip, like, but he designed our house,
Yeah.
and he's not an architect, but he was an engineer and had the thought process to design the house. He hired a builder to do it. This was in 1968, I believe, and helped the builder on the weekends. There's nothing he loved more than getting there and doing it.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, I was in elementary school. I don't know what grade, maybe fifth or sixth grade. One of our art projects was to build a house out of balsam wood.
Uh-huh.
And I did our house.
Very cool. Okay, so
Yeah.
so really it wasn't like a second decision. It was just lying dormant
there.
until you could ignore it no more.
Yeah. And I come, my dad's side of the family is Sicilian, and, my grandmother was a seamstress and a cook. My grandfather was a musician and a chef. And actually he was he a cabinet maker? I don't remember. He did everything. And my dad's the same way. And my mom's the same way. And, my mom knits everything. And, I come from a creative family. My cousins are creative. So it was in there. I just didn't know it. It wasn't something I went to college for. I studied finance.
Well, that is something that comes up all the time in these, is people saying that, they were raised to think that wasn't what you grew up intending to do.
Correct.
It's lawyer, doctor, finance. And
Yeah.
to an extent,
Yeah.
like I'm not telling my kids come
Right.
work with mommy. I'm like, what are the odds that that's going to work again? I don't see that. I don't see that. Has your style changed? Like I definitely have, like a decade, maybe not the aughts, or it's not a tidy decade, but right. I can chart differences.
Yeah, I can too. I think it's evolved and matured, and I think a lot of that might just be wisdom and having done projects and houses and knowing what works and what doesn't work. And this was another thing. Back when I was in school at New York School of Design, the teachers would all say, do not start your own business. You need to learn, and it takes a decade to learn. And whenever I'm mentoring somebody, that's the advice I give them too, because so much of what we do is space. It's touch. Did you feel? Did you touch? Well, you like this fabulous fixture, but your ceiling's 8.5 feet. No, that's not going to work. Scale. You can't do that on a computer. And that
I agree, but I think some people would disagree.
Yeah, I know. I totally disagree. I think a lot of people disagree, but I'll disagree back.
Yeah.
I'll fight on that one.
I don't have any. Sorry, my kids are going through my wallet. Just take what you need and just bring it back.
Oh, your kids. I'll never forget I'm going to change the subject for 1 second. Your twin boys. When
this is one of them. Go.
They were asking me, which one of us do you think is smarter?
That sounds like something they would. In fact, I know which one that was.
They were grilling.
The one that just took money out of my wallet.
Which one's a better athlete?
Yeah, like. Okay, moving along. Let's not reveal the crazy. Let's keep the crazy hidden.
I know.
What are some of the things that you've grown out of because you've learned better?
I think one of the things I've grown, well, it's funny when you work for Bunny and then you work for yourself and you have different clients and you have different budgets, and Bunny's clients were older than mine. They were her generation, mine or my generation. And when we worked for Bunny, we didn't have to worry about spilling things and white sofas. There's
interesting, yeah.
But now we have, my clients are younger, they have smaller kids, and we need to worry about things like that. So having an open mind and thankfully products better about that was a learning curve for me, because for Bunny, you didn't have to worry about that at all. And then, your use of antiques and custom furniture with Bunny, she didn't have to, necessarily order furniture the way we do.
Yeah.
Obviously for different rooms, everything's different, which is what I love about Bunny is
She's amazing.
best at the high low. And, she'll buy something from a catalog and put it in a spectacular guest room. So she really taught us a lot about that. And I think that's super important for designers to be able to do. But anyway, my taste has evolved with antiques, pattern, I think, not being so afraid of
in or out.
Oh, always in, I hope.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. But like, you like it better now.
Yeah. I'm more adventurous with it myself.
Yeah.
So I've definitely seen my own design. I look back at my old projects that were on my website. I'm like, ugh.
Oh,
we can read those now. But every project I put on my website, I feel is better and better and better. And that's, I think,
isn't that amazing?
The evolution of creative people that, because I'm a small business, I only do 1 or 2 projects a year. I don't do a lot.
Well, I mean, if you're giving, I don't think that's here nor there.
Yeah.
I think as long as you're focused on the projects that you're doing.
Right.
And there's no award for quantity.
Exactly. I know. And kind of thinking, okay, this room, how beautiful is this room going to be? Is it the best? Have I found, the drop dead table, or, the amazing combination of fabrics? It's like, let's just do our best. And I think sometimes, you get busy and you get caught up, and it's like, okay, we have a meeting, let's get this done. No, you can't think like that.
That is such great advice.
Yeah. So especially again, for young designers that we're always mentoring, it's thinking through it and to take us. And that's something I have to say to myself all the time is, okay, we're so busy. We've got a meeting next week. Oh my gosh, when am I going to scheme? But take a deep breath and really study what you're doing and make sure it's the best of your design. Oh,
I came out with a book in 2010, my first one. And we were doing little vignettes in my office of, like memento mori, trying to make pretty little vignettes. And a colleague of mine handed me a blue and white napkin. And it was paper, but it was beautiful, and the blue and whites worked perfectly. But I looked at her and I was like, if I never do another book again, is having a plastic napkin good enough? And I decided it was not, and it went. But I've reflected to myself that it's not a bad thing to remind myself. If this is the last room I ever work on again, or if this show house is the last show house I ever do, is phoning it in going to be good enough?
Right. Yeah. I know.
Or not enjoying myself.
Exactly. Right. I know. And even if you have a room that maybe the client is steering because they want something for their grandkids, or, whatever it is, you can say, okay, and this was something I learned from Jeffrey, actually. How do we take that taste or that request or what you want and make it the best and make it better? And if it's a client who loves squirrels, which I've had, okay, I found the Pierre Frey fabric with the adorable little squirrel and the acorn on it. It's embroidered and it's just beautiful, and we'll put it in your mudroom curtains. We'll use it for your mudroom curtains. So, steering people in the most tasteful, elegant way is, always
to get what they want.
To get what they want. To give them what they want. Yeah.
That's lovely. I bet you, Jeffrey will love hearing that. So no, it's such a nice thing.
Yep.
What are you looking forward to this year? Like, first of all, do you do like year ahead goals? Do you do 5-year plans? Like, I was just watching something on TV where they were sitting down talking about their 5-year plan, and I was like, "Oh, should I be doing a 5-year plan?"
I've never.
My plan is to make
it through this.
Just make it through the next.
Survive. I know. You know, I have a CFO that I work with. She's a consultant. She actually lives in Washington, D.C. I meet her for an hour and a month. And we're always talking about projections. You know, she keeps everything financially, you know, on spot.
So, yeah.
And she's been phenomenal. So we try to do those projections, but it's really hard. You know, I went through, I think all of us as designers have our ups and downs, and it never seems to stop. It's for all these years.
Yeah.
You know, toward the
You're
end.
never safe.
Yeah. Toward the end of the year, I had no pipeline. And, well, I mean, I had a little bit, but I didn't have what
but you don't know until the phone rings.
And then I got a call 4 days before Christmas.
Yeah.
And
that's the worst part of our job.
Exactly. That you can't project. But anyway, so what am I looking forward to this year? I have an amazing project with Andrew Skirman, who's a classical artist.
Who I saw on this. Andy Skirman, amazing.
Andy is the best. It's my 4th project with him here. His office is right down the street. So I'm going to photograph a project finished with him in the fall, hopefully in March when the trees start to bloom again. So yeah. I'm really looking forward to that. And this project I'm doing is fast paced. We came in a little bit late, so we're going to have to really work hard. And it's like everybody's going to be focused on this job, but it's a beautiful. That's the reward with an architect. That's his magical. That was
the most luxurious.
That I know. That's one of my questionnaire answers. Is my dream project would be one with Bill Schaefer or Mark Ferguson.
Yeah. Oh, when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, me too.
And I know very well. I'm like, someday, guys, someday it's gonna happen.
Every time I read somebody's questionnaire, I'm like, that's a great answer. Oh my God, yes, that's a great answer.
But you and I, you know, with our love for architecture, our passion for it, we appreciate that. And those are just the best projects.
They are, and they really, you should not work with an architect. You should not.
You
bad
mean
things can happen. Yeah, if you're doing a big house and you're doing a big thing, like
right.
It's just so critical.
Well, you know what? The way I put it is the more talented brains in a room, the better. You know, we all bring
Speaking of talented brains in the room, my husband is kicking me out of this one. And no, you're not?
What's that? Oh.
No, I don't have your headphones. I'm allowed to stay. What do you love about Mongiardino? Both of us. Oh my gosh. Do you love Mongiardino?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I really thought about the answer. Oh, really? Oh, somebody else. Okay. I thought about it, is my point, because you're like, oh, you know, Lee Radziwill. I mean, how can you not want every one of her rooms? But again, that's me and loving.
The ones my father did for her.
I didn't know that. But I think he's an architect.
Yeah.
And he brings architecture very subliminally into his decorating. I mean, you look at all the patterns, of the fabrics that he, you know.
Right. He's creating
the illusion of architecture. You know, the whole painting concept, that's kind of architecture, right? That design. So I think I love the pattern. I love the layers. Timeless.
I think there's a theatricality too.
Totally.
Like almost set design, the way you look at each of those elevations.
Without
it's like each one has been.
And you might not, I mean, obviously you wouldn't have your whole house like that, but to have 1 or 2 magical rooms. Yeah, I would totally do that. But I don't know. I just like, oh, there he is again. You know, it's just so incredible. And I think so many of us use his books and his work as inspiration right now. I mean, you see it in show houses. It's everywhere. And that goes back to my time.
But for a while it was dark.
Yeah, I know.
Like you didn't hear Mongiardino all the time in maybe the early 2000s.
Right. Those dark.
Because it was mid-century modern and that just wasn't the brief. But it's nice to see how.
Circle. Yeah. In fact, it's so funny, you know, we talk about changes, you know, I can't tell you how many times this probably happens to you. People, you know, whether it's the contractor or somebody, they're like, oh, you're doing wallpaper again.
Totally.
I'm like, I never stopped. Who stopped wallpaper?
Yeah, but again, a lot of wallpapers went out of
They did.
business, and then they had to, like, slowly grow back. There was
Yeah,
a while there where you could find no wallpaper. Like, it was, thank heavens for Cole and Sons, thank heavens for Farrow and Ball.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, but what was available, you couldn't find flying monkeys and
Right.
top
Right.
hats where now you probably could.
I'm very excited to see where interior design has gone in the past, year or two, maybe. And I feel like it is coming back full circle to a bit more traditional, timeless design, or at least, including components of it in maybe a more modern room, which I love also. And color, I mean, even just looking at the inauguration yesterday,
Yeah.
hello, color blocks,
Dual tones.
dual
Yeah.
tones, and I think we're all craving color makes you happy. I think most people anyway, and we need that right now, so it was just really refreshing to see it yesterday.
Well, you have been very refreshing today.
Oh,
and thank you so much.
Thank
I'm
you.
so looking forward to you coming back to New York for a party.
When can you have a party again?
We need to talk to Peter Lyden at the ICAA.
Oh, I know.
I just do what he tells me to do.
Your home, oh my gosh, every inch of your home is just...
You did not see every inch, and I am so grateful for it. I'm a big believer in the stuffing of the closet before people come over.
The last party I was at, which may have been a decorator, did you do a Decorators Club event there?
Yes, I did. And my daughter was checking the codes.
Yeah, right. Well, at one point we were all on your bed in your master bedroom, so.
True. That does happen. That sounds weird. It wasn't. It wasn't weird. All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to relinquish the dining room to my husband.
So I know, right? Exactly.
Great seeing you. Instagram has afforded me such happiness getting to talk to friends.
I know. Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Allison.
Bye.
Kisses. Bye.
Bye.